Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Toolbox Podcast, your home for everything finance, tech, fitness, and anything else we find interesting. My name's Scott Hacker. This is Ryan Fossage, and we're coming at you live the day after Christmas right here, which is
Yeah,
why I'm
man.
in the sweatshirt.
You got let off the chain to come down to the studio and knock out a pod this morning.
Well, if by that you mean caring for my two children, no, yeah, no. But Christmas is great, though. I mean, I will say that my oldest is finally old enough to grasp what's going on, and like he definitely, right? He was running all over the place, super excited, barely slept in. It was really cool, and it's definitely you get why people spoil the crap out of their kids. I know it's probably the most basic thing to say ever, but when you see him react like that, you get it, and it was really cool. So,
So
all in, family filled good Christmas here. What about you?
does seeing it through their eyes kind of restore some of the magic that you remember being that age?
Oh my God, 100%, 100 million billion%.
That's pretty cool. Because I was going to say, like, this is going to sound absolutely terrible, but I was telling my wife, I was like, Christmas is a spirit that I just do not attain most years after the age of 18.
Oh, it comes back, man. A lot of stuff comes back. Just regarding to seeing yourself through their eyes, and again, I could soapbox on this for 2 hours. It's a very interesting topic for me, just kind of seeing it firsthand how visceral it is. But no, it was a good Christmas though. Got the families all got together a whole bunch of times, saw the kids go nuts. It was a fun one.
That's awesome. Glad to hear it went well. What was his favorite toy?
We got this huge crane, this just enormous, fancy crane that can lift stuff. All the doors open up. It has all these cool jacks on the side. Things come off of it. Engine opens up.
Dude, that sounds
It's
sweet.
wild how just naturally they come to thinking trucks and cars are cool. It's just I did nothing to force this. It's again, there's just so many things like that that I find just so interesting.
I love that. Nothing wrong. I love some construction stuff growing up. But well, let's get into today's topic and let's see where this takes us. So I'm going to talk about XAI raising another $6 billion. So this excerpt comes from Data Center Dynamics on XAI's recent $6 billion Series C funding round. Geez. Significant investments were made by NVIDIA and AMD alongside other major investment firms. The money will primarily be used for the expansion of their massive supercomputer, with a potentially reaching 1 million GPUs to accelerate the development of its AI products and become a stronger rival to OpenAI. So, I mean, Musk is obviously the gift that just keeps on giving. I set aside politics, I probably align with him more than probably you do on some things, but like this dude, the fact that he could start, what is it, at least three $1 billion revenue companies, absolutely super impressive. So the fact that he's continuing to get funding to do cool stuff like that, I'm really interested in what he will develop with this additional funding and where he'll take Grok. No, I haven't really used Grok at all. So yeah, give me your take on just your initial reaction on this news.
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, don't forget he was just an investor in Tesla. Two other guys invented it.
Okay.
But no, I'm not here to throw shade on Musk. But I mean, the thing that I think is most interesting about this raising $6 billion. First off, the revenue they're generating, XAI right now, clearly this money is not being put in to chase profits or revenue. This is all about Musk will somehow figure out AI. I'm just blindly betting on the future of this, which I get. If you're a Tesla owner of stock for the last 6, 8 years, or if you're privately owned stock in SpaceX, I totally get why you'd say, screw it, I don't care, I'm going to double down on this guy. And frankly, enough of these people probably owe him $6 billion for making them $20 billion that they're probably just doing it out of the fact that they feel like they owe it to him. But $6 billion, if we think about it for just a couple seconds here, a data center that houses these things, it's a loose number to just throw around. I don't know, 10-ish million a megawatt is just like a good loose round number for sake of talking about
Okay.
this. Okay, that's just a building, and obviously XAI needs to buy the chips, and the chips are roughly, I don't know, call it 3-ish times more expensive than the building. So you're looking at like $40 million to build out a megawatt of one of these facilities. And okay, so you raise 6 billion. Okay, so that
Mhm.
means that you can build roughly 133. I think my math off the top of my head was work. If every single dollar of it went to absolutely nothing but building these facilities and putting the chips in them, that's like I think 133 megawatts, I think. And,
I'm double
and if my
checking.
math's right, okay, and obviously they have software engineers that they have to pay. Obviously, there's people doing the actual AI research they have to pay. So it's like on one really strange, just was like hard to believe aspect, $6 billion probably is not enough money to actually in earnest chase this stuff. You know, like Meta and Amazon and Google and Microsoft, that they're all spending 15, 20 billion a year on capex, and XAI is just raising 6 billion. I mean, the portion of that that's actually capex is obviously going to be substantially lower than that because there's no way all of it goes to that. So it's like this is wild how big that number is, but this is just such a capital intensive space that I don't think this is enough to keep up with big tech necessarily. I mean,
What if I
all
were
the
to tell you it was 150 megawatts?
oh, my math was bad there.
Yeah.
It,
Well,
it's
here's the
it's
other
it's
thing.
early in the morning.
I don't think Musk. I don't think his costs are 40 million a megawatt. I think he has that scrappy mentality where he finds a way to reduce his spend. And I think if you would probably go to his facility in Memphis, it probably doesn't have the same level of redundancies as probably most of the hyperscaler type data center facilities.
Mhm.
Not that he's cutting corners, but he's trading off cost for probably redundancy in a lot of these situations. And I think that especially makes sense when it's a training facility. If your training facility goes down for a day, I think that's okay because your training facility or your training data center isn't actually going to be used for any customer facing type processing. It's not imputing or it's not computing any of the tokens that they're passing in to understand what they want. What do they call that? Inference. They call that
Yeah,
inference. There we
yeah.
go. So I don't think his costs are 40 million a megawatt. That's all. I think the bottom line point I was trying to make.
Well, I mean, like even if we just say he's the second coming genius and he builds it for half the price, and
Still,
let's
30
say that
megawatts isn't much.
and yeah, and let's say he's the best friend of Jensen and gets a 20% discount, which okay, still he could maybe build 250 megawatts, and Amazon's building double that, and um, and then I get into the part where it, where does XAI fit into all of this? Like Microsoft, I can open up my computer and Copilot just pops up right there. If you're used to using the G Suite products with your personal Gmail or whatever, Gemini, it pops up right there. You can easily use it. It's fully integrated. I don't have a reason to ever get into AWS, so I don't really know what that looks like necessarily, but I have to imagine whatever Amazon's doing fully integrates like that, and the Meta stuff's obvious because that's how it touches all the advertising and on that piece. But where does XAI fit into this? Like, I doubt you're going to hard start the new fundamental interface for AI over all these entrenched folks that just own the distribution for it, And I don't think it's going to be through Twitter X. I don't think it's going to be through X because just the people that use it has gone down so much. So I just wonder, like, where does this fit in? Like is the long run vision to just like feed this business all the data from Tesla and then make this like the brain power for robotics and self driving? I don't know. I could make up some pretty exciting things of what this is, but most of those involve taking the IP from SpaceX and Tesla and shoveling into this, and then I don't know if you're allowed to do that. So I don't know. That's another piece of it for me that I get a little bit hung up on when it comes to XAI.
I totally agree. It doesn't have the nice GUI, the nice UI that automatically integrates into like your everyday type business stuff. And I don't think it should try to compete there. We use Gemini, and Gemini's interesting because it's nice with our G Suite where you can go through and run through your documents, and it can help you understand, when you sent this last email or what was in this
Mhm.
document that you sent to so and so. I think probably the angle that Grok is taking is it's probably going to go try and focus on more of a less of this. I'm going to help you do business administration type stuff, and I'm going to probably um, refine myself to be more useful to developers. I'm going to try and refine myself to be more useful to scientists and other engineers, and probably take on more specific type tasks versus these generalized um, tasks you kind of do with Microsoft Office and like the G Suite stuff like that. I haven't really used Copilot, but if it's anything like Gemini, I definitely do feel like there's an area to disrupt a little bit. I will say, however, like I think ChatGPT is really good. Like I do quite a bit of coding, data engineering type coding, not so much app dev, but it's just so unworldly amazing to have ChatGPT as a coding partner. Even if it doesn't give you a perfect answer every time, like you can reason through things with it and get to it a really good answer. So I've been really impressed with it that way. I have not tried Grok. That probably
Yeah.
should be some homework that I do.
So I think you've got the charitable vision here. Like I mean, what I would say is that when ChatGPT came out, this wasn't even a thing yet 2 years ago. So like it had that first mover advantage where it trained us to open that browser tab to do a new thing. I think the window was only there for one person to be the new thing. Like if Copilot and Gemini already existed, ChatGPT never would have gotten off the ground because the differentiation, at least in my perception of using these tools, isn't quite there. And like what I think the uncharitable version of XAI is kind of alluding to what I said earlier, which is this can be the AI. Like there's probably AI functionality in Tesla right now, and there's probably AI functionality in SpaceX right now, and these are things that Musk probably doesn't own as high as a percentage of those companies as he would own of this one. And I think if I think if XAI can get a huge contract from Tesla to do, modeling and analysis of their, visual camera learning of their cars driving around, or if XAI can get a huge contract from SpaceX for, figuring out some kind of, I don't know, optimal spacing of their satellites in space and feeding the information back and forth. I think that's the big nut here. If you're investing in this, I don't think you think there's going to just be like a different person to talk to that's AI. I don't think that's really the upshot here, in my personal opinion, at least. So I'm definitely curious how it's going to play out. It's just such an interesting time, just like you're watching this space, like, and like these data centers too. I caught another article about this development. I caught another article over the last couple of days where, I mean, I think a lot of people don't know this. I'm almost certain that that existing facility in Memphis isn't even, it's just running on natural gas, just a bunch of generators. They're just sitting around right now. It's not actually even hooked up to the grid. And that article I
Natural
caught,
gas, let's go.
yeah, I know, right? And then that article I caught was talking about like how I think the city of Memphis, I want to say, like it like pushed back the ability to connect it to the grid, and they asked for more power. And again, I mean, it's Tennessee. My strong intuition is that part of them letting him build that in Memphis was you can do whatever the hell you want. You're Elon Musk. Part of me thinks that's probably part of it. So I bet those natural gas gens could just run forever and no one's ever going to care. But I mean, there's power constraints here too. I mean, just because he gets $6 billion, that doesn't mean you can spend all of it in 6 months. Or at least it doesn't mean you can spend all of it on capex that can produce revenue in 6, 12, hell, 18 months. There are still fundamental constraints to being able to put these in places on top of getting the chips themselves. So, yeah, I mean,
I got
yeah,
I got another angle to come at this at. So instead of thinking of this as truly just a money making enterprise that Musk wants to take on just to further enrich himself, Musk does have some sort of existential type goals. And I think one of the things that he recognizes, or one of the things that he believes, is that for all of AI capabilities to be housed by one or two large companies is an existential risk to humanity. So I think part of what he's doing here, if I interpret some of the stuff I've heard about him, is he's trying to set up a counterforce to ChatGPT so that there is a democratization of this technology, so that there is, some competing force, and all of this technology isn't centered and congregated into one entity. With that, do you fear? I guess that kind of segues into my question for you. Do you fear the potential downsides of AI in the future? And if so, like, what do you think those might be?
Well, the first one I want to go back to is I think there already is a counterweight to having all the AI housed in these big tech firms, and that's our boy Zuck. I mean, all Llama's open source.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's all open source, and just brief, quick shout out whoever was in charge of Zuck's rebrand the last couple years. He's just crushing it. The new look, the new hair, all of it, man. But generally, what do I think about where all this AI stuff is going? I mean, I feel like it was literally only 2 years ago. Literally only 2 years ago, ChatGPT had been out for like a month. And I was like, whoa, this is kind of wild. And that's when everybody, I think, was like flipping out, thinking, oh my God, the machines are coming for our jobs. This. And like, it's 2 years have gone by. And like, do I use it for typing emails that I'm careful about? Do I use it for asking for contract language? I do. But like, has it consequentially really impacted anything I'm doing yet? Not really. It is saving some time. And I think that the journey from text based smartest person that has the ability to look up information immediately and the perfect memory. I think the journey from that to a super intelligent agent that controls the levers of all of society, I think that's a bigger jump than we give it credit for. Like today, I can't go to Gemini and say, book me a hotel in Phoenix 4 months from now. I'm going to this conference. Oh yeah, also pay for the conference. I can't do that.
I think
You
there's
know,
agents coming out that can do that. So I don't think that's very far off, honestly. But
yeah,
I'm with you. I think there's a bigger leap than what people realize to get from this is a really nice productivity enhancer to it dominates the world.
well, and like I like to listen to some podcasts about philosophy from time to time while I'm running and going around,
Really?
and a lot of stuff I've heard, does talk a lot about how the mind body connection is kind of central to some degree of I don't want to say consciousness because I'm going to get really far off field right now, but I almost feel like is until it can embody some form, and in fairness, that form could look like no, in fairness, that form could look like the internet, I guess, if we want to get a little bit creative. But I think as long as it's just kind of like a tool that doesn't necessarily control anything, it's going to take a bit for it to get over that hump. Do I totally think it's possible for whether it's GPUs or whether it's some other fundamental tech we haven't come across yet? Do I totally think it's possible for us to end up in a matrix scenario? Of course, I think it's possible.
Sure.
But I just don't think it'll happen nearly as quickly as we like to think it could.
That's a hot take because you listen to a lot of people. They talk about the exponential growth of this thing, which is interesting. And I'm not saying I think you're wrong or you're right.
Yeah.
I think it's nice and refreshing to have that viewpoint.
Well, I mean, is it better today than it was 2 years ago at asking questions? Yes, that's totally inarguable. It's better. Is the amount it's better exponential? In my personal opinion, it's not. I don't use it for coding, so that might be a different angle on it. And like we'll go back to the Musk article. He talks about 100,000 GPUs and going to a million GPUs. Like I've read stuff. You read about the scaling laws. Will there eventually be diminishing returns on all this stuff that'll then require us to hit just a different technology or a different set of algorithms to hit the next part of the hockey stick to go back up? And no one knows the answer to that. And anyone who says they know the answer to that, it certainly isn't telling people like us. But I feel like in order to get to that world where it's truly that super intelligent, omnipotent dystopia. I think that is very far off, and I tend to think that, putting some good faith in humanity generally, I tend to think that enough people grasp that happening would be very, very bad and would find a way for it not to happen.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree. I think one thing you said there with the hockey stick, I think people think it's just going to grow exponentially forever, and I think my opinion is things move more in exponential bursts and then level off. And then there's another thing that happens, another technology, another breakthrough, which gives you that hockey stick sort of growth, exponential growth for a short burst. You can make a lot of jumps in that, but I don't think it's just like constant bursting all the way up.
Yeah.
It's you make a breakthrough, boom, and then it levels off, and then another breakthrough.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's just going to be this, exponential moonshot.
I mean, you could make the argument if you zoom the graph out far enough,
Sure.
it looks like an exponential moonshot.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said there. What if you want to go into some fun hot takes really quickly?
Yeah.
I still, with a pretty damn high degree of conviction, I still believe we shouldn't give up that the metaverse is going to be a thing. All right, I'm going to die on this hill. I'm going to die on this hill here, and I think that I mentioned like embodied AIs, and we've been talking about agents. The most obvious place for embodied, I'll use that term loosely here, AIs, is in the metaverse. Okay, and I just feel like it just seems so obvious to me that our communication's all moving into video. The amount that kids play video games, hell, when we're in our freaking 30s, and a lot of us have played video games and seen the trajectory of those goes up. And I just with all the VR tools now and the AR tools now, I'm not saying it's going to be in the next 2 years, the next 5 years, or that we're all going to be living in it. I'm not saying that, but it just feels to me like every technological development. We talked about this in the last show. The bits versus atoms. All of our technological development has basically been focused on this device.
Sure.
Seemingly for the last freaking 50 years, and I think you can make an argument. We kind of do live in a metaverse. It's just text and picture based, okay? And the interfaces are thumbs, and I think AI being able to add characters to these and make them be people that remember you and talk to you will be the compelling event that can get it over the hump for people to spend significantly more time in a thing like that. Now, whether or not that's good for society, I'm not even going to start unpacking that, because I think there's arguments on that either way. But I'm not giving up. I've not given up on the concept of the metaverse, and I think these things we're talking about with AI agents, part of me thinks that before there's someone that can book a hotel for me in Seattle, that there's going to be just autonomous agents walking around in one of these metaverse worlds that people can just plug into and interact with. I'm going to throw that one out there.
Yeah, I think, you could say, online video games are already a metaverse type scenario where you take on a persona in a virtual world, and that's been around for quite a while. I think it's the level of immersion is probably, the point where is it considered the metaverse or not? Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a strong take on the metaverse. I don't think it has good implications for society overall. I think if you can bet on one thing, it is humans wanting to escape their current situation, whether you're, living in a mud hut 1,800 years ago or 2,000 years ago, or whether you're living in a modern day building. I think human beings just always find a way to think that things just aren't good enough, and they always want to find an avenue of escape. So it does scare me a bit that the avenues of escape in modernity become more and more attractive versus reality. I don't know what kind of downstream implications that has. And I think maybe we're already living in some of those downstream implications with declining birth rates, my favorite topic I find super interesting. Not sure if we want to jump into that. I will say, here's my hot take. I think AI actually is a potential solution for declining birth rates. There's certain jobs, certain things that, as if population continues to decline, won't get done unless you have some sort of substitute labor force to do those things. And I think AI-driven machinery, AI-driven robots could be one of those things that helps supplement, a workforce that, is dwindling.
Well, again, I can talk about birth rates all day. I do think that's an interesting topic. I want to go back to something you said, which is, metaverse implications in society. Again, I think there's an argument to be made. We currently live in a screen and text-based metaverse. Okay,
Sure.
we're doing this
I agree
show.
with that.
We're doing this show hundreds of miles apart. 20 years ago, you could not have done this show.
True.
Like I've been a sales professional my whole career, and up until 2018, 19ish, people gave you a really weird look if you wanted to do a video call, and now it's weird if you want to meet them in person first. Like you know what I mean? So and it goes without saying, it went from calling the phone to now everybody wants to do emails, and God knows people our age, particularly people younger than us, never want to pick up the phone, and I think if you just follow that far enough, meeting people in a more immersive experience. Again, I'm not saying this is 2 years away, but I just think that feels to me more of like the true mega trend that this video conferencing world we live in now is stage one in the progression to we all have virtual meetings in holographic areas where we can see each other in more of a three-dimensional vision, and we're sharing a workspace digitally. I think that is some of the end game here, and maybe these AI agents, where I think they can first most easily, might be the way to word that better, where I think they can most easily live and consequentially interact with humans, is in these metaverse environments, and that might be the thing that spins up the flywheel to get people using these tools, to get more people using the tools, and then once the people are in there, who knows what's going to happen to the AI agents? But and then the birth rate one, let's put that into another episode. I think that as someone with 2 children, I love that topic, but let's shove that one to another episode.
Yeah, I'd say let's bring this one home. I think we've explored the idea of XAI getting $6 billion. We took that thread and pulled it to some interesting spots. So signing off here on the 26th. Thanks guys for listening. Stay tuned. More podcasts coming out soon. See ya.